I think people put a lot of pressure on themselves for the art to be,
Absolutely.
everything, and it can just be a beautiful piece of the puzzle. So just buy the art.
Yeah.
That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree.
Hi, I'm George, the co-founder of Bluethumb, and I'm joined by my colleague Amy. Welcome to Season 2 of the Art in My Home podcast.
We uncover the surprising stories from the art collections of unexpected guests.
Today's guest is Chris Carroll. Chris is the founder of TLC Interiors, a design studio and blog that's been making interior design accessible and enjoyable for over a decade. He started his career as a journalist and editor and transitioned into the world of design after studying interior styling more than a decade ago. But he's not just a designer, he's also a blogger, presenter, and decoration junkie. His blog reaches hundreds of thousands of readers every month, where he shares his design tips, showcases Australian home style, he partners with leading brands in the interior space. You might have seen him on shows like Sunrise, The Morning Show, and Changing Rooms, where he shares his expertise and passion for all things interiors. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you. That was quite an intro.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm exhausted.
Oh my God, I'm so tired for you, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the pod, Chris. We like to start the arty questions first. So you've sent us quite a selection of your artworks. George and I had a little squiz at them earlier today, but we thought we'd just dive right in. What are some of your favourite artworks in your collection?
The art at my home is a bit all over the shop, and my home is a bit all over the shop in general, because I think most interior designers will understand that you're so overwhelmed in the day-to-day world of design, and so much is coming at you, so many different styles. And when it comes to your own home, it's a bit all over the shop.
Yeah.
So the art kind of follows suit, all a bit wacky. Although I initially thought I'm a bit of an abstract artist person, when I looked at the art in my home, there was no abstract art. It was all kind of bold and random. There's one I got through you guys recently, the one, I call it the sunshine one, even though that's not what it's meant to be about.
Sunbray Simpson by Styles B.
Yeah, so nice. And it took so long to choose that piece, because when you've got a partner and you both have somewhat strong opinions on design, to land on a piece you like is tough. So that took us a while to get to that point. But I love that piece, and it's a fave because it reminds me of a sunshine. I don't think that was the artist's intention for it to be a sunshine, but I love that. That's what it evokes for me anyway. And I think that's interesting about art in general, is that the artist who's doing it, is doing it with some kind of intent, but it's not necessarily what the recipient of the piece is seeing in that. So love that piece. Nice, bright piece.
I believe that was the first artwork you'd sold on us was when you bought it, which is great. So it's nice to kick off someone. They're now a featured artist on us, but that looks like a piece in reverse to me. Is it the frame showing? Wow.
Back to front, So painted on the back of the canvas.
Incredible. So is there anything on the other side?
No. And I love that about it. I love that it's textural. I love that it's bright. I love that it's a bit weird and unexpected.
Yeah.
And I think the longer I've been in the design world, I do want the pieces in my home to be a bit weirder and a bit strange and a bit out of the box. So, I mean, there's so much art on your website. So it took a while to narrow it down, but I think that stood out to me because it was just a bit out of the box. It's a bit strange.
It's a bit anti-abstract in a way as well.
Absolutely. When I read the little synopsis on the website, I think it's meant to be Simpsons related or some kind of abstract Homer Simpson thing, which I didn't see in it at all.
I thought it was maybe the Simpson Desert.
No, somber. Sorry, I said Sombre Simpson, but Somber Simpson.
It's funny you call it the sunshine piece when it's titled Somber.
Well, to me it looks like there's a sun crying, which I find quite cute. Like, to me, there's some weird meaning beneath it about the sun giving so much energy out and just ensuring there's some left for yourself. And, work in the design world, and we have a lot of clients on the go at once. Just about retaining some energy for yourself and a bit of self-care. That's kind of the deeper meaning for me in that piece, which is what I like about it.
Kind of recharge at home.
Yeah.
And Chris, I wanted to ask, you touched on something that we struggle with all the time, deciding on an artwork with your partner.
Yes.
Does that hold up projects? Is this a hurdle in a lot of projects, trying to decide on artworks for houses?
Absolutely. I mean, I work with couples. I work with people who are single. The people who are single are always easier because there's not a third opinion. And often clients, when I work with them, are on separate pages completely about design styles. Someone wants to go down a Hamptons path. Someone wants to go down something more industrial. So it's figuring out how to bridge that gap, how to meld those two worlds and styles. And I think the deciding on art with your partner factor is tricky. And art is inherently so individual, and I think that's why people find it so difficult to embrace art, lock in a piece, because It's not only hard for them, but then the partner's influence comes into it and you've both got to like it.
For sure. Absolutely. I had an art advisory yesterday and she's like, my husband likes it. I was like, just buy it. just get it. If you like, just get it.
Well, that's what the other thing is, I think there's a weird misconception that you need to love a piece and be emotionally moved by it to get it. And it's like, you don't need to love the art. Just liking it is enough. If you like it, if you're even, 60% there, just get it.
Absolutely.
People are kind of suffering a bit of an art paralysis and are living with blank walls at home for years because they are struggling, either just themselves or with their partners, to lock in a piece.
True.
Knocking out a wall, you're choosing the artwork. Yeah, you can move it.
And it can be, of course, it can be that main moment in the room and the main focal point and the hero, but it can also just be a piece of the puzzle in the space. I think people put a lot of pressure on themselves for the art to be,
Absolutely.
everything. And it can just be a beautiful piece of the puzzle. So just buy the art.
Yeah.
That's the moral story.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. Like, I even just had a couple come in and they're like, we're trying to buy 3 pieces at once. I was like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Just do
Baby
one.
steps,
Just start. Like we're not climbing Everest here. Let's just start small.
I have that problem at home. My partner and I have a really similar taste in music and other parts of the arts, but visual arts, the Venn diagram is like this slither. So I end up just buying the art often, and it sometimes makes it back to our office.
But doesn't it go missing as well, George, is what you were saying the other day?
It does.
And sometimes you've got to pick your battles as well. I mean,
Oh, totally.
you win the art thing, they get to win another piece of the puzzle, whether it's a rug or a piece of furniture.
True.
So sometimes you just have to let the other party win.
Yeah, true. It's like negotiating with terrorists.
Yeah.
Like, really. Just trying to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
George and I both love, because we're both from Adelaide as well, Billy Justice Thompson's cocktails.
Yes.
Could rave about her artwork.
Same.
For days.
Same.
For days. I have a couple of her prints in my house as well. I have a Vegemite jar, but I
good.
just think she's fantastic.
So good.
Very good.
But there's the Twisties one as well that I want to get my hands on. Yeah.
You should. I've seen her also do like life-size, like champagne bottles, and I was
wow.
like, perfect.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
great.
So good. Yeah, we spec'd her for a client, and sometimes this is how I discover art. It first ends up in a client's home, and then I put it in my own home. So that's how they came about. Yeah.
She sold herself to you.
Is that near a sort of a drink station?
A drinks,
or, is it?
yeah.
Perfect.
And you can see a half-dead plant trying to grow around those. I'm not great with plants. but I'm trying.
No, absolutely. It's so hard.
I was looking at her Insta actually just before this. She has an amazing looking sort of Kitchener bun, like a cream bun. You know, it's growing up in Adelaide, and it turns out they're called cream bums, I think. But yeah, I'm tempted, but I also think I'd probably give myself diabetes if I had that on the wall. I'd eat too much sugar. And this Aerosol Warrior is interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of Matt Stewart. He's an Australian artist, yeah?
He is, based out of Queensland from memory. I discovered him when I first started the blog 12 years ago.
Right.
So I was very much, and I still am very much into graffiti, street art, kind of aesthetic. And he very much is that. So I discovered him years ago and I've had that for a while. Just nice, vibrant piece. I think there's a bit of orange or gold foiling on
it's
there.
really pretty.
Gives a bit of a 3D element, which is quite nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's done a bunch of tie-ups with like big design brands I really like as well recently.
Yeah.
Like I think his style obviously resonates with the kind of cool, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Nike. And
Oh, yeah.
few
That
others.
makes sense.
Yeah.
A very attitude-fueled kind of vibe.
For sure. The other one, could we talk about, Chris? These faces from Lagrola.
Yeah.
Lagrola framers, just checking. We were doing a deep dive. Is that where you got them from?
Yeah, Lagrola, they frame, but they do loads of
Yeah. Well, I hadn't heard of them before. I was on a deep dive on them earlier. I think these are really cool.
They're really cool.
Really cool. Like the texture's giving moon vibes to me, but I just think they're so quirky.
They are strange, and my partner chose those, and initially I was a bit on the fence. And it was, like I said earlier, just lose that battle, give in. So, but I love them now. They've really grown on me.
Absolutely. They're not too offensive in that, like, bold colours or anything like that. Like the really pared back palette is like, I could live with them as well. Yeah.
And they are easy to work with.
Yes,
so
for sure.
To decorate around those.
Oh, for sure.
Is simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it reminds me of Reg Mombassa somehow. Mombassa.
I don't know.
The Mambo guy.
Oh, true.
Yeah,
True.
like classic Aussie sort of. I don't know why, just the heads.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, big fan of his. You've got a print from a friend?
I do. So a family friend did that years ago. It's a cat print, like a screen printing, I believe. Just an upside down cat with a meow on it, which there's a bit of a backstory to that because I grew up having a cat phobia, which was quite strange.
wow.
I was so scared and phobic of cats. Never grew up with them, so they were always quite foreign to me, and I didn't like them and was quite fearful of them, and it was quite strange. But when I met my partner, his mother had 2 cats, so we were at a crossroads of needing to deal with this cat phobia. So that kind of represents getting over that phobia. And now I've got 2 cats of my own. So it's been a long journey. We've come a long way. Yeah.
You're like Batman. You
got
through it.
Yeah, come full circle. So, yeah.
Real immersion therapy, that, isn't it?
Yeah, wow, okay. I had a question. You already mentioned speccing art in your design projects as you go. When you're doing an interior for a client, how common is it to include art versus just be doing sort of the furnishings and everything else?
Well, 95% of the time it's always art. Art is always on the plate. It's always incorporated into the design concept that we do for a client. There will be occasions where clients have existing pieces they want to work into the scheme. So sometimes it's a bit of a reframe of those pieces, but 95% of the time it's always speccing art, so always hunting for it. Some clients, which it pains me, but I get it, will say to me, can you do the full furnish and just give me some guidelines on what the art should be above the sofa, but I want to go on that journey by myself. I feel quite personal about it. I want to find something or pick it up along the way. So I'll give them the parameters of, the colour, the size, whether it should be portrait or landscape, give them some guidance on that. But most of the time we get to incorporate art into the mix. So it's nice. And we do either design a room around a client's art piece sometimes, or we are working art into the larger piece of the puzzle in the rooms or across the whole home. Yeah.
And is there sort of like a sequence, or I'm kind of curious as to where it fits, or it depends on the project and you start with a big statement, something, and work around it depending on what the project is?
There's definitely a full process.
Yeah.
Which is why I think when I hear people say, and people at home will understand when they're listening, when people say, just buy what you love and it will work. So infuriating, because we go through maybe seven steps before we land on what the right piece of art is going to be for that room. From, is it the focal point? How do you want the room to feel? Where is it going and what size should it be? What orientation should it be? Is it glass frame or is it canvas? Like, we're going through all of these steps to get to the final result.
Yeah.
And then when we know those parameters are in place, that's when we jump onto a website and filter for that particular vibe. So before we even get to colour and style, we've got to go through all of those steps. So it is a bit of a journey to pick the art, and it's never the easiest part.
Yeah.
And then when you are presenting it to a client, a lot of the time they either love it, they're unsure about it, they don't like it, but at least we've gone through that process and can say to the client, well, this is how we arrived at that decision.
Yeah.
You need 2 pieces side by side above your bed. You said you wanted it to feel calm, so we've gone for those blues that you like. We didn't want it to be behind a glass panel or a frame. We wanted it to be canvas to bring some texture to the room. So it's a bit of an education process with clients to say, this is how we arrived at that particular spot with the art. If you don't like it, then let's explore some other options, but where we're headed.
Yeah.
Because for the average person who's not in design, it's really overwhelming to land on a piece.
Yeah.
But I would encourage them to go through a bit of a process. Before you even get to colour and style, a lot of clients come to us and say, I did just buy what I loved along the way.
Yeah.
And now I've looked at the room and none of it works and I don't like it and I need you to help me fix it. Because they just got all these pieces they liked along the way without stepping back and going through a bit of a process to ask those questions.
Yeah. And it's your mess to sort out.
It's a fun mess. Yeah. And sometimes it's just a few tweaks, and sometimes it's just saying, look, where you want the room to be is just completely at odds with what's in here at the moment.
Sure.
Art included sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah.
And in your process, Chris, would you find it easier to start with a client's artwork, or is it easier to find the artwork later on?
I've done both. I think it can be more rewarding to have an art piece to jump off.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a client in the CBD that I did a project for that had an Indigenous artwork she picked up from travels in the Northern Territory, and it had classic Indigenous colours of, black, red, yellow, but then it had some lilacs and some sky blues in there as well, and she loved it, and she just said to me, I'm not sure, I really love this, I just don't know if I can make it work. And that ended up being the entire jumping off point for the whole project.
Sure.
In terms of colours we'll bring in armchairs and cushions and other art pieces. So it felt more rewarding to say to her, you love this piece, and now you've got a home that incorporates it. So I think that can be more rewarding.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side as well, we do loads of projects where art is just coming in as, one factor or a piece of the puzzle, which can be just as rewarding. It all depends on whether the client likes it or not. So,
True.
It's good that you can kind of get to the searching for art stage when you've boxed it in a little bit.
Yeah.
It's funny, we were looking at some data last week on us, and the average first-time buyer on us looks at approximately 600 artworks before they buy an artwork.
That's insane.
They look at 600.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, someone without a brief. That's just someone.
And that's what's happening because they're not asking any of those questions, right?
Yeah.
So they're just sitting on a website. Yeah. It can be very overwhelming. Yeah. They're not putting in a filter of any sort. They're just thinking, I'll see what grabs me. Mm-hmm. Of course, 20 different pieces can grab you. Yeah. Then you start to question it. Then your partner doesn't like it. And it just becomes very overwhelming. And then the fear is that you're locking in a piece. And this is what I think is the art paralysis component, and people don't lock it in because they're so fearful of making the wrong decision because you haven't really asked some of those questions in the beginning to really get to what does that wall need.
Yeah.
Sometimes I guess it would help that you're making the call as well. Like sometimes people just I need so much guidance. I need you to be like, this is the right move.
Yes. And some clients are like that. Some clients will say, I have no idea. I just want you to make it look good.
Yeah.
Just choose for me.
Yeah.
Which is lovely.
And I'll live with it.
Which is great. And then other clients, like I said, get really passionate about it and get that kind of, it needs to speak to me feeling, which I can understand in some components, but just don't leave your walls blank. That's my only request. Just commit to something.
Okay. So we've talked about some of the works in your house, and you said you're a bit surprised by, I guess, how diverse it is. Could you describe your home? Like, you do this for clients all the time. How would you describe your home, or what the sort of the theme is?
Well, it is a mess. It's a hot mess because, like I said, as an interior designer, and I think a lot of interior designers listening will say the same thing. You spend so much time choosing for other people, it either becomes hard to choose for yourself or you're just a bit burnt out by making all those decisions. So my own home is beautiful, very contemporary, influenced by a bit of mid-century design, a little bit of light industrial, and perhaps a little bit Scandi. So a few different influences all thrown in there at once. It's developed over time. Sometimes the beauty of working with clients who are, blank canvases, you can just fill it all at once and it's all very resolved and every piece of the puzzle fits perfectly. When your home's developing over time, then you do get wackier art pieces that you picked up, across the span of decades. But when you're in design as well, you want to change everything constantly. So I could honestly move house every year and be quite happy. I just love the constant change and the constant moving things around. So,
What about building a place? I feel like that's a dream for some, is to start from a literal nothing and build. Would you want to do that?
Not my dream.
No. That's because you've probably done it. Seen too much.
Some designers say, I love being on a build site. I love all the construction. I do not. Please just give me the finished shell and then I will come in and furnish and do all the window coverings and all the carpet and all of that. But don't love a build. We work with clients who are in the middle of builds and help them with selections throughout the home. It's stressful. It's a lot for them.
I haven't done it or been that exposed, but I've never seen it go on time or on budget.
Never.
Like, I've watched enough Grand Designs.
Exactly. Like, did you not learn from Grand Designs?
What would be the within budget, within time? It'd be like 2% or something, wouldn't it?
Oh, well, clients reach out to me mid-year and say, the builder said it's going to wrap up, early December. That's when we want to move in. And I said, okay, so that means March or April. We'll plan for March or April.
Cool. Just to be safe.
Let's be real about it.
Okay.
And I guess as well, Chris, like exposing yourself to so many different trends, trying to translate that in your home, you must just be like, maybe you get to the next year, like, I didn't even like that trend. Like.
Oh, and some of them come so quickly. Yeah. Some of them are in, out. Sometimes a designer, it kind of filters down. It's like in The Devil Wears Prada where she says, a designer does this and then it filters all the way down and you buy that sweater. It's kind of a similar thing. And sometimes by the time it gets to a budget chain, you kind of know it's on the way out. It's filtered all its way down and then you're on to the next thing. But I also think Australians are unique in that we are quite risk adverse and we don't embrace trends a lot and we don't embrace bright colour a lot and we are a bit afraid to do that. So most of the clients I work with, it is still more of a subdued, neutral, muted palette with some accent colours. But particularly colour trends I find come out and, the Pantone will release a colour of the year and then it's 6 years later we'll finally see it in homes. And we're just so slow to jump and adopt those trends, I find.
Yeah.
It's a slow process.
Someone said the other day is like, what are you so scared of when you're building or renovating? Why are you so scared of risks? Like, you don't want to build just to resell. Like you want to build to feel comfortable and love the space, right? Or renovate for the space. So,
and I think that's what's happening. People are always thinking when they're in their own home about selling it to the next person. So you're never personalising it. You're never embracing something. You never take any risk or just saying, you know what, let's just try painting the wall that colour. It's just paint. We can fix it.
Yeah, true. Like but it feels so intimidating to live with this colour for long term. Yeah. We spoke to an art collector on Friday, and she has made a gallery house. Like, she's just like, no colour walls because I need to swap my art around. So, like, you won't see any colour in my house. We're like, oh, you're right. It's just glass. Like, it's just glass and white walls. But
then the art.
But the art is the colour.
The pieces are amazing. She said a funny thing, actually. She was like, I love all the art, but I hope people who come don't.
It. Yeah, that's
I hope some of it's hated.
Yeah.
It's like, I like art that challenges.
I do
like,
think you want some of that.
Yeah.
We've done that for clients before, and like you said about a kind of really neutral base so that the art is like an art gallery feel. We do that for clients down long hallways sometimes so that you are kind of stopping along the journey to the rest of the house to appreciate some of this stuff.
And then they'll I think they love to hate it. Like, it'll come in, I don't know about that. Maybe 6 months later, I love this artwork. Like,
100%. And I think you do want people to come to the home and go, I think this is weird, I hate it, it's strange, it's eerie, it's creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, you want some kind of reaction sometimes.
Yeah, a bit provocative. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one because I don't know if I could do it. But then even sitting in the gallery, we've had some works floating around and I'm like, oh, now I love that. I would never have bought that years ago.
There's the dark kind of Melbourne scene. I looked at it a few weeks ago and I'm like, I can't stand this. And now I'm pretty close to buying it. Yeah.
George has gone on such a journey with these.
I just stop in front of it all the time. Went from a scowl to like, I think I need it now.
Yeah.
It's taken a few weeks, but yeah, I love it.
But that must happen a lot for you guys being surrounded by the art all the time. And it's always, evolving, changing, rotating.
For sure, absolutely. Yeah. And you probably know as well, when you're hunting for artworks on websites, you probably like tab something for like later kind of thing. And you come back to it and you're like, what was I thinking? Like, I was like, no, I'm so glad I didn't do anything about that. Even though at the time I was like, I just don't think I can live without it. Like,
or the reverse, you kind of bookmark it for later thinking, I have to work that into a project somehow. I have to meet that right client who will let me do it.
Yes.
And sometimes it just sits there and you don't find that client.
No.
But that's the dream.
Yeah, it needs a good home. Yeah. I was reading your blog earlier about your art. It was, what was it, 8 ways to hang art in your home or 8... Oh, I'm trying to remember the title. I just was reading it earlier. I know.
10 years ago.
I know. I was just trying to read it. But yeah, anyway, really great tips for hanging art.
Oh, hanging art above a bed. It may have been that one.
Yes, really great tips. And so in depth as well. I really appreciated it. And then I think I might have jumped onto another link about one of your recent Camberwell projects and finding artworks for a room, and you had 3 artworks in this room, and you're like, look, I could have hung 2 big ones here, but how weird would that be? Instead, I've hung 1 here and I've hung 2 here. And I was like, it's fantastic tips, because I feel like people keep coming into purchasing artworks, like this couple I was speaking to earlier, and they're just like, we need a big wall, we need this big artwork, and then we need another big artwork in a similar palette. And I was just like, no, it was a terrible idea. Yeah.
Did you say that?
No, I was just like, no.
And that's because they didn't go through those steps, right? So there's so many questions to ask yourself, and examining a room takes a bit of time to get that eye to go, what does this room need? And 2 artworks that are humongous across from each other aren't going to work.
Yeah, the math does not add up.
So it's figuring out, okay, if we've got that on that wall, how do we resolve this other blank wall without it being competitive to the main piece on that wall, but still giving it something, but making sure the scale is right. So there's a lot to figure out.
Absolutely. It's like Tetris. God, anyway. Is there a piece of art that you've always wanted but haven't acquired?
I don't think there's like that one piece I'm dreaming about,
Sure.
because there's so many. I mean, I'm just
You see so much.
rotating through art so often. There are definitely artists that I'm trying to get into projects that, like we were saying earlier, that I bookmarked to think I really want to get them in, because I quite like their art. There's no room left on my wall, so I need to put them into a client's home. So that happens a bit.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, the elusive one's not there yet.
Not there yet, no. And I think it's because we choose some original art for client homes that I will love, but then you're on to the next project, and then you loved it at the time, and then you just moved on.
True.
So in your work, the mission statement actually is to help make design accessible, which resonates like really well with us here too. We sort of have art for everyone as our mission here. Do you have any advice for someone who's trying to get like great home design but on a budget, whether it's with art or just in general with home design? Any kind of budget tips?
Yeah, well, accessibility and making a room look great regardless of budget is at the forefront of what we do. We work with clients on all different budgets and price points. So The rules of what makes a room good are the same regardless of whether you're spending 10 grand or 100 grand on the room. But when it comes to art on a budget or even a room on a budget, it's just about the right mix of price points and depending on the room, what you're going to pull back on and where you're going to invest. For living spaces, for example, you obviously want to invest in your comfort pieces like sofas, so that's mainly going to be your investment point. Other pieces can be more affordable. Things that you're not going to sit on or rely on for comfort, you can pull back on. When we do art for an entire home and we're doing art for every single room, we will have a mix of some original, some mass-produced, even some prints off Etsy that we're putting in a frame for a kid's room. So it's a combination. So I'd say look at your home in that respect to say, I would suggest investing in some. I think you want to feel like there's some more special pieces that are from an artist who's made it from scratch themselves and it is original, but then pull back on some of the other components as well. Pull back on tables if you want to, if there's somewhere you need to go affordable on, pull back on tables, pull back on bedsides. Lighting can be done quite affordably as well. But I think with art, you want to showcase some really good original and then you want to mix in some more budget-friendly and mass production kind of prints.
Yeah. I love that advice. And we've heard similar sort of things from other guests as well that, the mix.
Yeah.
Have some stuff that, you love and is like, this is an artist I collect, and other stuff is... Yeah.
And framed and unframed makes sense.
Totally.
Second-hand frames as well.
Second-hand frame, yeah.
I mean, we are in the design world and like I said, we work different clients, different price points, but they can't afford to do original art across the whole home. It's unrealistic for us to expect that. But I really like to push them to say, let's invest in this artist. And that's why it does become more meaningful to them because you are supporting someone local. They have put their blood, sweat and tears into it. So I like to have at least one piece that's like that in a home that can be appreciated. And then pull from that vibe and get some mass-produced stuff in other rooms that speak to it.
For sure. Let's get into your career, Chris.
Okay.
So you started as a journalist and an editor before moving into interior design.
Yes.
What prompted the shift?
Design was always there, bubbling in the background. So when I studied my diploma in journalism back in my early 20s, I did some work experience for a week at Real Living magazine when that was around. So the design factor was always there, but I love writing as well. So they're kind of the two were kind of both there side by side. Started the blog in 2012 as a way to express my love for design and creating and showcasing creative things, and then was studying design at the same time. So those two pillars of the business kind of rose up together. The blog started first as a kind of to share my passion, but I also wanted to not just be another voice in the mix who was unqualified. So I really liked that. I was studying, I was sharing my knowledge, and that people can go to the website now to get expert advice from someone who's been doing it a long time, rather than someone who just has an opinion on what will work. Because there is a lot of misinformation out there in the world. I mean, you guys would know what it's like as well. As the internet explodes on social media and influencers, there's just a lot of noise out there. And when people want help with their homes, they want to be able to go to a reliable source. So the blog allows me to have that. It's the design and the writing side by side, and it's backed up with some expertise. But I also love going out, working with clients, being in homes. So it's good to have the two-pillar business that allows me to have both of those passions. But 12 years on and it's still going strong. So both pillars are successful, and I've done presenting and all of that along the way as well. So it's been great. It's been a lot of hard work, but it has paid off.
For sure.
And I read the TLC Interiors blog has roughly 250,000 readers a month, which is huge. That must have sort of opened up opportunities for you as well, having that many people come and read what you're writing about design. Yeah,
it did. Opportunities from brands, opportunities to write for other websites. I've done articles and columns for realestate.com.au and news.com.au. So it has allowed me to write for other websites. It has also brought in a lot of design clients. So I'd say that 95% of our inquiries come from Google because there is so much content on the website, so much design content. That is where the bulk of our design clients come from. So great to have the social media to support the blog and to support it. And people do say, you are really transparent. I get a feel for what the brand is about. I know who I'm going to work with. I see you on social media, so I feel connected to you. That's part of the reason why they choose to work with me, apart from the design. So that's great. But it all started with the website and it continues to be with the website. And I'm sure the influencer market will change. And I love socials, but I actually prefer nothing more than just sitting down at the computer when I've got time and just bashing out some really informative content on the blog.
Absolutely. And like from reading it earlier as well. It's just so unintimidating. Just you've already been through it. You're like, I've already done this. Don't do that. Do this instead. Like it's very just down to earth. easy and achievable like information for
Thank you.
novices. Yeah.
And I do want it to be that because I was
Yeah.
that person. So before I studied, I made all the mistakes. I did
Yeah.
it all. So I'm very much in the readers
Yeah.
or have been in the readers' shoes. And
Yes.
I want to bridge that gap for readers and for design clients as well. To say, I don't know much about design. That design world feels so elusive and unattainable and exclusive. I want to bridge that gap for people to say,
absolutely.
I get you, I'm normal.
I'm just a person.
We've all made those mistakes.
Yeah.
I'm down to earth. I just want to help you have an amazing home. And yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's nice to read like a less intimidating point on how to deep dive into design in particular. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. What's a kind of trend that you're really loving at the moment? And look, we know how you feel about trends. And we know they might be gone in 6 months. Is there anything right now that's kind of caught your eye that you're like, ooh?
I think the overarching, and I guess it started as a trend maybe, but it's going to be more of a style that I think will stick around for a while, is that contemporary farmhouse, clean, modern country kind of vibe. I think it was very influenced by Studio McGee kind
I
of
love
style,
Studio
which
McGee.
everyone
Yes,
does. So I
yes.
think now Australia is jumping on board with that kind of vibe. More suppliers are stocking those kinds of products.
sure.
And I think for people who are a bit scared of colour, who love that boho coastal, more rustic vibe in years gone by, it's kind of that, but we're just refining some of the timbers and getting a bit sleeker and smoother. So I think that contemporary farmhouse trend will be a style that we're going to see a lot, and more clients are requesting it because they just want it to have that beautiful homestead, calm vibe, but without the rustic elements, without the rough and ready timbers, and just a really nice, calm colour palette.
It's kind of a design that would work pretty well in Australia as well. Like
definitely.
it's very, George, I don't know if do you know Studio McGee? They have a Netflix TV show. I think they kind of popped off in maybe lockdown.
probably
That's
seen-
when
you would
I
have
watched
seen
them.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've seen some of the Netflix.
And she
yeah.
does YouTubes, they do
Yes.
Netflix. But yeah, I imagine the size of their farmhouses, the size
Oh,
of
I
these
know.
mansions.
I know.
Can you
Yeah,
imagine?
they're the ones who are like, so we've got an 8,000 square foot new build. Like, that sounds very big to
And
me.
do you know what she's just done as well? I saw on YouTube. She's just done a whole refresh of her house because
Of course, as you do. As you
it's
do.
maybe like 2 years old. She's like, we've just done a refresh. And I was like, did it need it? Or like,
So 2022.
yeah, it was so dated.
Okay.
But yeah, okay. I would love that.
But I think people were influenced by that style.
Yeah.
And look, I'm sure plenty of people were doing that style, but she kind of blew it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people are on board now. It's such a nice style.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, take me on board.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I've watched many seasons of The Block.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not up to date on this year's season, but I read you'd commented on the current season. How are you feeling about it right now? The Phillip Island season.
Yeah, so I've just, as of about a couple of weeks back, stopped doing the recap. So I was recapping every year,
Yes.
writing critiques, giving my real world design opinion on it, which I mean, the readers loved it. It got a lot of traction.
For sure.
It was well received because I think it was missing that kind of opinion from a real designer who's in the world every day working with clients to kind of say, oh, this is what I thought about the room and this is how I think it could be tweaked. And, you know, a lot of readers would say, I love that you could articulate what was not quite right with it. I could feel that something wasn't quite right with the room, but I didn't know why. So I enjoyed it for a while, but it's a very busy business that we have. So there's only so many hours in the
For
day,
sure.
so many days in the week. So I had lost the passion for doing that critique. It takes so much work to watch the reveal episode before it airs, to edit the photos, write what is often a 2,000 word article every week.
Yeah.
And, you know, with most of the articles on the blog, I do go deep. It's very meaty. So to get that content out takes a greater part of a day all up. And then to be there on a Sunday night, to put it all live, to jump on socials, to do all of that for something I wasn't really passionate about anymore. Didn't seem like a great idea.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, and look, the show's changed a lot over the years. I don't know it from someone who's watching at home point of view necessarily, but I don't know that it's a place that we go to look for trends and inspiration anymore. And I don't say that to discredit anyone who's working on the show. I've done reality TV shows before, so it's a lot of hard work. But I would just love some more locally produced design shows that are really design focused and decorating focused and I guess just offer more design to the viewer. I think The Block's a great reality show.
Yeah.
I just don't know that I want to be writing about that reality show every week
Yeah, fair
anymore.
enough.
So it was just time to move on. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I always wonder about the block as well. Have they burned any bridges in Melbourne that they've had to go to Phillip Island now because there's no suppliers that want to work with them in the city? Anyway, I don't know. It's an interesting show. Like, we love watching it. Like, I probably only watched the last day of it. But, yeah, I can see that it's a bit... It makes renovating, while hard, the turnarounds aren't realistic. Like...
And that's the thing. I don't think it's representing
it doesn't
real-world
really translate.
renovation.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And I would love a season, whether it's a block or a similar show, where they have 5 teams and there's a builder, a designer and a stylist as part of the team. Yeah. And then they do those homes and it's more educational along the way. I would love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people watching can go, they're doing that modern farmhouse style. Yeah. This is how it can be achieved. And these are where all the products are from. I would love that.
Yeah. But instead it's the same supplier. It just keeps being a bit same. It feels a bit
repetitive.
Yeah, for sure.
But for a supplier, I completely get it because we're so starved for local shows. So
for sure.
If you want to showcase your products, then you need to showcase
want to get in
somewhere.
there. Yeah, for sure.
I went through the houses last season because they were near my house down, I think they were Sandringham.
Elwood, weren't they, George?
No, they were a bit further.
Oh,
they were Bayside,
Yeah.
I don't think they'd shown all the art, but I would say a third of the art was Bluethumb artists. It was so great. Yeah. And some of them had lots of pieces from the one artist. And it was a really good feeling to kind of walk through and just be immersed in a whole bunch of art that's familiar from us. But yeah, it seems like even the prices they get don't seem to reflect what the price of it
and that is another thorn in my side about it, because we do get clients, and look, I've spoken to many other interior designers who do more renos than we do, who say clients are coming to us saying, I've got 20K to pull off a bathroom, when you need realistically probably 3 times that amount.
So that'll get you a shower.
But Scotty Cam says you get 20K this week.
So they don't factor in labour costs. They don't factor in that some of it is sponsored. So it can be a bit misleading for the average person watching at home, which can be tricky for us in the industry to educate people that it's not just us trying to take more money from you. It actually does cost us. The materials and labour do cost this amount.
And it's not a week either.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
I mean, even a furnishing job for us is at least 6 months from start to finish.
Exactly. No, it's a lot of mythical things.
So we need new design shows, or more design shows. I think that's
I think so.
You should get a pitch together. Go pitch Netflix.
Yeah. Oh my God, Studio Chris. Chris Carroll Interiors.
I'm ready.
Oh, you would be so good.
We can help on the outside.
That's it. Done. To rival the blog. Just a more honest version of it.
Well, actually, I like, we're talking about the transparency in your blog and how you sort of give honest opinions. Does that set you apart in design? Like, I feel like there's not a ton of raw honesty in content in design. Do you think your transparency is rare or
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, it is rare, and people tell me it's rare. Yeah. The block is a good example of, writing those recaps and critique for people to say, you were saying what I was feeling at home. I feel reflected. We're not hearing it. So I think honesty through the blog has been important, but clients often will say, we loved your portfolio and your vibe, but it was your transparency and honesty about how much you charge, how long the process takes, the steps you'll go on, that made me want to work with you, because there were no questions I had to ask. Like, it was all out there.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay in the design world and for you guys in the art world as well to not like something. That's okay. I mean, when I'm critiquing rooms, I'm not critiquing it as to whether I like it or not. I'm critiquing whether it works and that size art works in that space and whether that was the right thing to put in. But I think it's good to have an opinion. I think as a designer, you want to have an opinion. There are things you want to stand for. I think that is a bit rare in the industry because people are just afraid to be honest and have an opinion, and it's okay. I guess people are afraid of cancel culture and all those kinds of things, but we're just designers.
Yeah.
We're allowed to say we don't like a design style or that particular armchair. I'm not a fan.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Exactly.
Has it ever got you in hot water? Like, has it got hate mail or anything?
Never.
No.
Oh, good.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, good. No one's come for you for a bootleg chair,
I mean, some brands have probably said, let's not work with that guy. He just said he didn't like bootleg. Who knows?
Awesome. What's on the horizon for you? You juggle a big content business, really, plus your design studio. Do you have any other kind of projects cooking in the background? Or
there's so many I'd love to cook, but it's busy. We're busy at the moment. I know we were talking about career earlier, but I think I peaked a bit early and packed in so much to the start of getting the design business up on the blog and authoring a book and getting TV shows and all of that. I think now I'm just riding the wave of just enjoying that and having some calm, because and any small business out there will understand it's a lot. So it's taken a lot of work, and I think it is hard just to sit back and enjoy it because you are, well, I am anyway, very, let's get some more, let's do some more, what's the next thing? I mean, I've got a book in me. I've got an idea for that. I actually would love to pitch a TV show, as we're saying, that is a bit more real world and just doing over a room and educating people about styles and how to put rooms together. I'd love to do something like that. But it's just finding the time to do it all. Yeah, that's the tricky part.
2025.
And even online, 2025, yeah.
Netflix.
I'm just hearing opportunities are endless so far. So, but yeah, Netflix for sure, Chris. We'll see you there.
Someone get me a contact.
Yeah. Put it out there.
Yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Chris. It's been great to chat.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's been great.
If you love art and hearing collector stories, please share this episode with a friend. Don't forget to follow, rate or review the episode to help make the pod more visible. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people and the Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional owners of the land we're recording on, and we pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging.